Are you ready for a Stellar Blade review, a non-woke Stellar Blade review?
This place is dangerous. Take my hand.
This game is a masterpiece that delivers pure action. You know, sometimes games entertain you, sometimes games challenge you, but then once in a while a game comes along that actually completely hooks you, refuses to let you go, and it leaves you thinking about it. You know, you wake up sometimes thinking about the game, and then long after the credits roll, you think about, wow, I want to go back and do some more stuff if I can. I want to maybe wait for the DLC, and Stellar Blade is that game. So I spent 55 hours in this game. I 100%ed the game, and this is a game I can confidently say is one of the most rewarding, sweat-inducing, boss fight, action-pumping experiences that I've had in recent memory. It's also the first game that I played on my PS5 Pro, and what a way to break in this new console, by the way. The game looks absolutely stunning in every way, but the graphics alone don't make a game great. I really, frankly, don't care much about the graphics. If the gameplay sucks, if the gameplay loop sucks, then I'm going to duck out of it pretty quickly. That's what really makes Stellar Blade shine, is the combat, a system that's so fluid, so deeply satisfying that every battle feels like a thrilling test of skill. So in this review, this deep dive review, we're going to talk about why this game is a must play. We're going to talk about the gameplay loop to its unapologetic design choices that set it apart from the crowd. You know, the developers, I love that they just stuck to their guns despite all of the woke mob saying, you can't have a woman looking like a woman, like a beautiful woman. You can't have a man. There's a man in the game who's a really handsome man. You can't have like a handsome man. It's 2025, 2024. What are you doing? They have to look frumpy and ugly, says the woke crowd. So I love that they stuck to their guns on this. So let's jump in, shall we? So let's talk about the combat. The star of the show in this game is the combat. If there's one reason Stellar Blade deserves your attention, it's the fluid combat system. Every fight feels like a test of skill and timing that you have to include with an incredibly satisfying parry and counter system that rewards precise timing. There's no mindless button mashing here at all. In fact, if you are in a boss fight and you start button mashing, which I did, you will get a few hits in, but you will die pretty quickly. So you need to read enemy attacks. You need to react quickly. You need to strike with precision. And there are some boss fights that took me many, many times to get through. But once you learned the pattern, you got the timing down, it was incredibly rewarding to finally get through and beat those bosses. You know, when you land a perfect parry and a perfect counter attack, it's pure bliss. The clang of the sword in that parry is just so nice. And it creates a Pavlovian response, you know, like you're like, I want more of that, like a dog coming with a bell ringing or something like that. It's like, I want more of those experiences, the perfect block, the perfect block, the perfect block, and then I get to counterattack. It's so satisfying. Also, the skill tree here is another highlight in this game. It's simple, it's easy to navigate between survival skills, beta charge-up attacks, basic combo attacks, and more. It's a straightforward skill tree, letting you unlock new abilities without any sort of convoluted nonsense that drives me crazy that you get like in other skill trees. Like, for instance, I mean, like the first time looking at like Diablo 4 skill tree, you're like, what? This one is pretty straightforward, makes a lot of sense, and really helps you adjust things throughout the game for certain bosses. We'll talk more about that in a second. You can also jump into training mode anytime right from the skill tree, which I did constantly to master new techniques. It reminds me a little bit of like Prince of Persia and the Lost Crown. You learn some new skills, but you want to go back and really figure out how to execute some of these different skills, these combos, because to me, I want to have like 3, 4, maybe 5 combos in the back of my brain, like, okay, triangle, 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 square, that's going to do this, I want to have a couple of those in my rotation. I don't just want one, I want like 4 or 5 that I can kind of rotate between, whether it's an aerial attack and all of those things. So, you know, each time you unlock a new ability, by checking in at the skill kiosk, you can just choose to learn how to use it. It also reminds me a lot of like Armored Core 6 from FromSoft with the training mode. You go into that sort of holodeck experience, and you can really just spend some time practicing in battling different mechs to learn some of your new combo attacks and things like that. So I really love that. I love how easy it is and seamless to be able to just jump in to some of the training modes right after you get an upgrade. And you don't have to go to some menu place. You can just do it right there. It's very, very fast. So each upgrade feels substantial but not overwhelming. I mean, some some games make skill upgrades feel like minor stat boosts, but not here. Stellar Blade ensures that every new ability feels powerful and it's worth unlocking. Taking down bosses and elite enemies becomes even more satisfying as your arsenal expands. More combos, more beta attacks, all of that stuff. All great. One great feature in Stellar Blade is the option to tweak combat settings. So if you're struggling with timing, you can just turn on some of the on-screen tutorial prompts, and that'll indicate, when to hit the parry button or when to do the perfect dodge. I use this quite a bit actually in the middle of the game to improve my skills. And since you can toggle it on and off at any time in the settings menu, it's a fantastic tool just for learning. So again, yeah, there were times when I just would toggle it on because I was really struggling with some of my timing. I was like, okay, wait a second. Is the yellow when the boss or when the enemy starts like glowing yellow, should I do a perfect dodge then? I should move totally out of the way because they're going to destroy me if they hit me. This is like a fatal attack. So I just wanted to be specific on some of those things. So I would turn it on just to sort of practice my timing, and then I would turn it off a little bit later. So great. I really love that feature. Another strategy I highly recommend is spending significant time in that training area. I mean, there are a lot of combos and attack strings, but if you're like me, your brain won't remember all of them at once. Instead, I focused on mastering just a few key combos, like I mentioned, that could consistently execute in battle. Like having a reliable set of attacks made a huge difference for me in handling tougher enemies, like some of the charge attacks where I could rush right up to them and do a big attack, or sort of a perfect parry and counterattack and then rush. And so there was all sorts of different combos that I made sort of my own, my 4 or 5 favorites, like one of my favorite aerial attacks and stuff like that. So your mileage may vary for what you enjoy. Maybe you enjoy ranged attacks and things like that. So again, I would say go in there and spend that time. All right, let's talk about boss fights. They are tough, but they are fair. So boss fights in Stellar Blade are epic, they're challenging, and they are incredibly rewarding once you beat them. Now, if you don't learn enemy attack patterns, you will be absolutely annihilated in this game. But that's the beauty of it. Every boss is tough, but it's fair, meaning you'll always know why you died, because you screwed up. Now, I will say there are a few bosses where they have this crazy one-hit fatal attack, and I am not a fan of that. That is one of my disappointments in the game. Again, there are like 2 or 3 bosses that have some weird sort of massive energy attack, which is, you can't stop it. And so you've got to prevent it from happening. Otherwise, you're just dead. There's nothing you can do about it. So these fights, though, do test your reflexes, your patience, but once you do master them, taking down these massive enemies feels like an incredible achievement in this game. One of my personal strategies, you guys can try this, but it was resetting my skill tree before each major boss fight. So this allowed me to tailor my abilities for each encounter. For example, some bosses required faster parrying and dodge cancels. Others, though, rewarded like high damage burst combos. So I would go into the skill tree and be able to make a change, and it's so flexible, the skill system, so you're not locked into a set path. You can then reset your skill tree at any time and optimize your build for specific fights. So here are some of the key strategies that I found useful. Let's talk about becoming the parry master in your skill tree. So there might be a boss where you have to really just focus on parrying, okay? And if a boss relies heavily on that telegraph melee attacks, you really have to then go into your skill tree and build it out to be parry-based skills that increase stagger and counterattack damage. So some of the late game enemies particularly demand that you have perfect parries. So, I mean, you'll have to perform like 3 or 4 like perfect parries in a row before then you counter with like a massive beta attack. So again, build those parrying skills up in your skill tree, and then make sure you have a massive beta burst attack set after you do a perfect parry that enables you to stagger and knock back an enemy. Another thing you might want to consider in your skill tree is the mobility and evasion skill tree. Certain bosses unleash like massive AoE attacks, or an area of effect attack. I kind of mentioned that a little bit before, where there's like big, massive amounts of energy will fly at you, or big pieces of concrete will come down and try to smash you. And if you're anywhere near that, you're going to get hit. So you want to prioritize dodging abilities in those boss fights and dodge cancels. And then extending invulnerability frames can make all the difference in that. And then burst damage. Here's another one. This was really important too, because later in the game, you're going to pick up a gun. I would encourage you to pick up the shotgun and use the shotgun to great effect, because you can actually do some nice stagger damage using a shotgun on certain bosses, but also your beta energy. So some bosses have short windows where they are staggered and they are vulnerable. So resetting my skill tree to focus on high burst damage combos made these moments far more effective. So after I've parried, and they're staggered and they're kind of little woozy or whatever, I can do a massive beta burst damage attack, but you've got to structure that properly in your skill tree ahead of time. Also, energy regeneration. If you find yourself running out of stamina, like right in the middle of a fight, well, then upgrade your energy recovery skills in a boss fight. So this helps keep the pressure on without leaving you vulnerable and open, because then you really can't do anything. Once that stamina is done, then you're done and you're open for an attack. So let's talk about graphics and performance. And is this a next generation showcase on the PS5? Now, PS5 Pro, I should say. Since this was my first game on the PS5 Pro, I was hoping for something visually impressive, and Stellar Blade did not disappoint. This game runs at a smooth 60 frames per second, has jaw-dropping environments to look at. Sometimes I was just sort of marveling at the vistas, you know, as Eve, as her character protagonist, is climbing up a ladder, and you're just like looking out and you're seeing these like plateaus, and there's these unbelievable science fiction. There's, I won't ruin any, no spoilers, but you know, beautiful spaceship environments and just really, really gorgeous. Beautiful detailed character models as well, and really beautiful, stunning lighting effects, because you're in a lot of dark, cavernous areas as well. So whether you're exploring like a ruined cityscape, deep underground bunkers, or you have these lush natural landscapes. There was like one level that really looked like Avatar. Really beautiful with this like luminescence and stuff. So every environment is just a feast for the eyes on the PS5 Pro. Let's talk about the level design. Again, another visual masterpiece here, and without spoiling anything, Stellar Blade takes you through a variety of breathtaking locations. This game does a fantastic job of balancing like linear action sequences with open areas that you need to explore, and I like that. So you feel like, okay, I'm in a bit of an open map here, and I can do a lot of little side quests, which I did. But then you kind of go back into some dungeon areas, and you're funneled back into more of a linear gameplay. Sort of reminds me actually of like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. You know, you're in the Vatican area at the beginning of the game, and you feel like, wow, this is like an open world game. Then you find out later that it's not, and it kind of funnels you down more into a linear story, and then it kind of opens back up again into more of an open world experience. So that's kind of how I saw Stellar Blade playing out as well. Coming back to the hub world allowed you to explore, but getting back into the sort of linear, I'm in a dungeon, keeps you on rails in a lot of ways. And look, I've had a lot of time playing massive open world games. I don't need that right now. So anytime I can come back and be like on rails, I'm fine with that. Just keep it going. Uncharted style, if you know what I mean. Some levels are claustrophobic and eerie. Other levels are like expansive and full of incredible vistas. So there's a good mix of also horror elements in this game too. Like, yes, a lot of jump scares coming around corners, and these aliens, some of these alien designs are just crazy, and where you think you take down an alien and then a body kind of comes out and it's like clomping along on the floor, like Silent Hill 2 style. You're like, oh, super, super freaky. All right, let's talk about the story. Again, this is all spoiler free. Now, I went into Stellar Blade expecting great gameplay, but I was surprised actually how much I enjoyed the narrative. The game keeps you engaged with strong world building, interesting lore, well-developed characters, and just when I thought I'd figured it out, the story then threw a major twist at the end that I was completely unaware of, did not see coming at all. So that was really surprising. It's not just about the combat in this game. Now let's talk about the DLC. Maybe some more reasons to return to this game. So just when I thought I was done with this game, Sony just announced new DLC. Literally, I think almost the day that I finished the game, we got new DLC announced. So I'm definitely coming back for that. And if it's anywhere near as good as the base game, then Stellar Blade is going to be in my rotation for quite a long time on my PS5 Pro. So the final verdict here, it's one of the best action games in years. Stellar Blade is an absolute must-play. If you're an action fan, you will love it. It delivers perfectly tuned combat, incredible visuals, amazing boss fights, a gripping story, zero woke nonsense. You know, in a time when many developers are caving to outside pressures, it's refreshing to see a game stay true to its vision, focus on just being great and a lot of fun. So if you love fast-paced action, deep combat mechanics, and rewarding progression, don't sleep on this one. I'm going to be eagerly awaiting the DLC. and whatever Shift Up decides to make next. So we need more developers that aren't afraid of the woke mob, and that's frankly why I bought this game. I wanted to support developers who are taking risks, in 2025. So I would say I give this a 9.5 out of 10 is my final score on this game, on Stellar Blade. Let me know in the comments below, are you planning on picking this game up? Have you already played it? What do you think about it? And thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you next time.